If you've not been following along, and maybe you have not, let me give you the truncated recap. Commanders owner Dan Snyder is refusing to testify under subpoena. This all goes back to that congressional hearing, and they issued a subpoena, but he never actually got it, and it is all about that hostile workplace claim against the football team. Now, Snyder's attorney said he will instead testify voluntarily on a Zoom call. And that's what he's going to do. According to the attorney, that's it. Now, Snyder refusing to testify under subpoena, that comes a day after the Oversight Committee accepted his offer. So they've already accepted his offer to testify virtually at the July 28th hearing. So we're still a couple weeks out on this. And the attorney says it's not under subpoena. And it appears that somebody at the Oversight Committee has screwed up and agreed to this. Now, Snyder and the football team that he owns, the Commanders, what a dumb name, are accused of fostering a toxic workplace. Toxic, like the water in Flint, Michigan, back in the day, where accusations of sexual harassment were ignored. It was like Animal House behind the walls. All right, so let us discuss the question. What is Dan Snyder's battle plan on this one? Has it changed? So I've got Sun Tzu, T-Pain, and Dean Smith. And I will effing guarantee you that never before have Sun Tzu, T-Pain, and Dean Smith ever come up in the same conversation until right now. All right, so first of all, Dan Snyder has spent a lot of dough on legal counsel. He's got a lot of money. When you got a lot of money, you can hire great attorneys that have the $3,000, $5,000 cufflinks and all that. But these lawyers, what they appear to have found is a wormhole. And Snyder is looking to slither right out of trouble. He wants to get out of trouble through that wormhole. And all of this thanks to an old philosophy from Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu wrote a book hundreds of years ago that is still quoted. The book was less than 100 pages, and it is still quoted to this day. But one of the philosophies of Sun Tzu was that every battle is won before it is ever fought. And so what's going on here, the way I'm reading the room here, is that Dan Snyder's attorneys know if he can testify without being under subpoena, then he will be seeing rainbows at night, unicorns flying through the sky, and it'll be raining gold bullion. We're talking easy street. Now, why is that? Because if he testifies voluntarily, he can cite any existing non-disclosure agreement, as we are told here. Therefore, what does that mean in layman's terms? It means that he can refuse to answer particular questions, saying, I wish I could answer that, but on advice of my counsel, instead of pleading the fifth, he says there's a non-disclosure agreement. But under subpoena, okay, Dan Snyder would then be forced to testify fully, meaning he would then have to plead the fifth early and often. And so it appears that Snyder's already won, although there is pushback. The chairwoman, Carolyn B. Maloney, not full of baloney, unless she is because she's a politician, but the chairwoman here wrote a letter to Dan Snyder's attorney explaining that a subpoena is necessary. And so that's where we are right now. Now, turning the page. Secondly, how was Snyder able to successfully, to this point, avoid the subpoena? This is an amazing thing here. Right? Think about that. How difficult is it to avoid the federal government? And so far, Snyder's done it. Now, the subpoena from this committee was unable to be served by the government. They could not get Snyder. Why? Well, Dan Snyder, who does not seem like he hums any kind of music, was humming a few bars of an old T-Pain tune. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Yeah. And that's it. He's on a boat. That's it. I'm on a boat. That's the song. Everybody look at me because I'm sailing on a boat. Dan Snyder's vessel has remained somewhere in the Mediterranean area of the map of the oceans there for over a month. And his yacht has been tracked to all kinds of exotic ocean locales. And at last check, Lady S is due north at this hour of Sicily. So if you want, how great is it? There's an app that you can tell exactly where Dan Snyder is, but because of things called laws and territories and things like that, the U.S. cannot not apparently go out into the water there. They know where the yacht is off of Sicily, but they are unable to serve Dan Snyder. And since the subpoena failed to be served, Dan Snyder's attorney responded to this U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Reform. That's a big bureaucracy, that Snyder would, as we said, testify virtually, but only do so voluntarily. And the attorney for Snyder, this woman, wrote that under the circumstances, there is no valid basis to miss a subpoena for Snyder's testimony, the lawyer wrote. And so essentially saying, you're wrong, you have no leg to stand on here, and we, meaning Dan Snyder and his attorneys, intend that he will testify voluntarily, not under subpoena, again, because he wants to fall back on all of the agreements, the non-disclosure agreements, that he has paid out a lot of money to random women who he was goofing with over the years, and that were part of the organization there in Washington. All right, final thought. So how long is this going to drag out? So this is where it gets interesting, because the date is July 28th, and that's only a couple weeks away. So you say, well, it ends July 28th. Snyder comes in. He doesn't actually show up anywhere. He's on Zoom from some exotic location, and he does what he does. Now, at the same time, there's a chance that the committee here, the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Reform, they say, well, wait a minute. No. We subpoenaed you. We're not going to let you get out of that. And so then what happens? Well, Snyder's taking a page out of the Tar Heels playbook, running the old Dean Smith four corners offense, slowing things down to a snail's pace. There was a time that you could do that. Now, because of that four corners offense, they added the shot clock to basketball because of that. But Snyder plans to be out of the country again for most of the rest of July. Here, we're already closing in on the midway point of July and also into August. So he's going to be out while training camp opens up, even though I guess he's still banned. He's still banned, wink, wink, nod, nod, from going to all of the events. But that's according to his attorney, who said that Snyder, who's currently outside Sicily, will also be hanging out in Israel, observing the first anniversary of his mom's passing. So Snyder is trying to run out the clock. Now, last I checked, they don't have a shot clock in Congress. I wish they did. So you could call this, in political jargon, a filibuster by Snyder. Now, Snyder will play ball if they being the committee here, allow him to testify voluntarily. If they do not, this sounds like it's going to be a legal challenge, that there will be some paperwork filed to challenge the validity of the subpoena, which hasn't even been served yet. So I guess it would have to be served for it to be challenged. So that becomes another can of worms and all that. Either Congress is going to cave and agree to Dan Snyder's terms, or in his mind, he's going to drag this thing out till November. We talked about this in a previous episode. The hope would be that a bunch of these busybody politicians who are putting their nose into all of this will get voted out of office. And as a result, this whole thing will vanish into thin air. And by the way, I was talking to an attorney friend. I say that loosely because it's one of the people that like the show, because we're not actually. Attorney friend, I say, someone that's willing to give me some opinion without having to pay them. Because most attorneys, you got to pay them for everything. But one of the fans of the show who happens to be an attorney, he said, legally, from what he understands of the law, Dan Snyder would actually have a really good case that this does not reach the statute of a subpoena. That if they force the issue, they being the committee, that Snyder actually has a really good chance of winning on a technicality. And how would that go over? Oh, yeah, people would go, pull what's left of their hair out. Oh, I can't believe it. That's not fair. Oh, my God. Ah! That whole thing.